G'day, Sainers. Back at the hotel after what was a crazy match. Thanks for joining. Comment your thoughts, first of all. How are you guys feeling? What were the positives and negatives of that? That was insane. Very similar, it felt like to me at least, very similar to round one against GWS, except we probably didn't play as well in the first three quarters, but we finished the same way. We finished strong. They didn't give up. Gold Coast had their chances and we just took ours late, and that was enough. Some of the big name players that we rely so heavily on stood up. Paddy Ryder, Hunter Clark was huge. Brad Crouch with his goal. Jack Billings had a close to man of the match performance. At 25 in kick 2 was incredible. It was ugly. Last week was fancy and it was clean and we could just sit back and just go, oh, that's nice. Whereas tonight it was just, or today it was just on the edge of your seat, like fumbles, just, Gold Coast getting some easy goals from our mistakes. We had so many chances in that third quarter, or pretty much across the whole game, where I think we kicked 8 goals, 15 or something for the whole game. And in any other week, you probably kick a lot more goals, but for some reason today I think we hit the post maybe 4 or 5 times even. Max King hit the post. I think Higgins hit the post. There were a couple of others there that Membry as well. So we had a lot of points, but there were 4 or 5 there that hit the post that every other week probably go in. So it wasn't our best set shot game, but what we lacked in skill and what we lacked in execution across the ground and in front of goal, we made up for in effort and just never giving up, pushing until the final siren. That was enough to just put the pressure on the Gold Coast, so much so that it just broke them late, and our tools got going late. Max King dropped a few, but Marshall took some big marks late. Membry took some big marks late. Paddy Ryder stood tall and took a massive mark at half forward. Crouch and just some of these guys that were pretty good for most of the day. They decided to man up and to put the pressure on their shoulders and deliver, and that's what they did. And Jack Steele did what Jack Steele has done all season. He had 27 in kick 2. Like I said, very different game to last week. And these wins, I think, are the wins that probably mean more because you pinch it. I'm looking at the stats and Gold Coast were leading for a good 80 to 90 minutes of that game. We had only led, I think, overall for about 20 minutes. And that was enough to win. And that, to me, says that when we're on, we make the most of our chances more than when other teams are on. And Gold Coast played some good football. They also played some poor football. But when we played our good football as opposed to our poor football, we took our chances more. And I know that some people are frustrated. I know that people are even still commenting saying, well, it doesn't feel like we won or it wasn't clean. We're not a finals team. But it's still only round 8 and you're away from home. You're playing a team that's won 2 wins, going for 3 wins in a row. They've beaten Sydney there and smashed them a couple of weeks ago. They played Collingwood, beat them, and they're on their home deck going for 3 in a row and to push for finals for the first time really since 2013 or 2015 or 16, whenever it was that they actually got close to finals. So this is a massive win. You don't want to underestimate. Every win is important, even just to look at the ladder. We're now 10th. Percentage is still a bit of a worry, but we go 4-4. Next game is, after last night, it looks very difficult, playing Geelong on Friday night, but you don't know what's going to happen. Every week is different. Geelong played pretty much the perfect game last night, and I dare say you probably can't back up that type of football, whereas we had a hard-fought, come-from-behind win, galvanises the troops. We had a good win last week. We're getting that feeling of learning to win again, whether it's ugly or whether it's just an easy game and we put the foot down. But we stuck to our guns, and that's, in the end, what got us the win. We beat them in clearances pretty comfortably. We had more inside 50s, more contested ball, more marks. We controlled the ball, and I guess, if we want to talk tactics, the first quarter for me was frustrating because Gold Coast were clearly flooding back. You know, there was, when you're at the game, and I don't know if anyone's watching that was at the game with me today, but if you look at the field position of the Gold Coast Suns, when we had the ball coming out of defence, they had every player back. When we had it, especially on the wing and close to half forward, they had no one forward of the centre circle. All 18 players on the field were in our forward 50 arc. And that tells me that's why we were bombing. That's why they were getting intercept marks. There were times where we probably needed to go to a different option, but there were so many other times where they just flooded players back and we were just hoping for our tools to create a contest to bring it to ground, and we didn't. And to me, I thought we needed to go a bit faster. We needed to stop them from getting back, because when you go slow, and that's what worked so well last week, we could go slow, cut back into the middle, and then go fast. And Hawthorn weren't disciplined enough to get back, but Gold Coast were disciplined enough, especially early in the game, to get back when we weren't going fast. And that just slowed us down even more. So I think we were trying to find the balance in the second and third term on when do we go fast, when do we chip it around, when do we hold possession, when do we go into the middle with that risky kick. There were so many scenarios I think we were trying to just get right in our minds in terms of our tactics. And I think by the time we got deep or midway through the fourth, we found the balance and we started to lock it in. They were flooding back a little bit, but our defense pushed up even more so that when they got the ball, they were stuffed as well. So we just kept getting repeat entries. And at the end, when you have that many inside 50s late in the game, you're eventually going to get some scoreboard pressure and you're going to get some results. And in the end, we did. And that's the best part of today. Wasn't the game itself, but it was just the effort. And how many times this year, guys, have we talked about, and some people are going to be hypocrites on this, and I can already see a few in the comments in St Kilda's post and in my final full-time post, but other weeks gone by, people would say, I don't care if we lose as long as we show effort. And the same people are commenting saying, well, that was a shocking win. It might as well have been a loss. And we showed effort. We did exactly what a lot of supporters wanted. We showed effort. We showed guts. We showed heart. We didn't give up. Across the whole game, we go 15 points down. Lukosius has a shot. Could have put them 20 up, and it didn't, and we didn't put our heads down. We stuck to our game plan, and it got the reward, and it got the win. And that's the most important thing. And that's a big tick for Ratton, a big tick for the boys. They can go back into the rooms thinking, well, we went ahead all day, but we stuck to our guns and we backed our game plan to get the win, and it got the win. And that's the perspective I'm taking. And hopefully a lot of Saners take that too, because the season is a marathon, and to get 2 wins and to come from, when you think about the poor form that we've been in, the results that we've had, the players we've had missing, to go 4-4 after 8 and to have a Friday night game with, going into it with a bit of form, a bit of winning form, and to have our tools playing well and to get our smalls. Higgins, I thought, was fantastic today. He was, until Steele and Clark and Crouch and Billings stood up later, he was my man of the match. Because when we were behind, he was the one that looked most likely in the forward half to do anything, to get a goal. He was throwing himself at the foot. He was tackling. He was chasing. He was trying to create goals out of nothing. His inventiveness around the ball was something that a lot of other blokes didn't have today. But everyone caught on. One player did the next thing, then it led to a tackle, it led to a mark, and it was just contagious after that. And that's what helped us get the win. Everyone stood up when they needed to. I couldn't think of really a poor player. I thought that our backline was gallant because there were so many times where we turned the ball over and, Dougal Howe would be in a poor position, but he'd run off his man, he'd equalise the contest somewhere else and punch the ball out of bounds. So it was the classic dirty win, just like what Peter said there. It was an ugly win, but every year the good teams win ugly as well as winning fancy and winning clean. So the fact that we can do what we did last week and have a clinical win, but then we can go away from home, play ugly, be behind for a lot of it, be behind the 8 ball for 90% of the game, but still come away with the win, that's even more rewarding than the week before. So I'm very proud of the boys. flew over. The worst thing when you're a traveling fan is to pay all the money to fly over all the time and effort and then to see a loss. But so far I've traveled 3 times this season and we've seen 2 wins. So good strike rate. Hopefully the boys can continue that for the rest of the season and get some more wins at home, because that'll help us pushing into the 8. And that's what makes Friday night so important, is if we win, I think we could actually be in the 8, which would be insane. So to beat Geelong and to be in the 8 after next week would be huge, but let's enjoy the win a little bit more today and tomorrow, and then we can focus on Geelong. But I might go through some comments. I'll scroll all the way to the top. Thanks again for watching, guys. Sorry it took a bit longer to start it. It was walking all the way back from Metricon, and it's not as easy as you think walking from Metricon to the hotel. They push you all the way around the stadium and you have to walk all the way around. So it took a bit longer to get here, but we're here now. Ian says, big Friday night game next week. Need to make sure we put in a good effort and not get flogged. Let's just get the win. You know, I'm not going to worry about getting flogged. The last couple of weeks we've proven that we can put the effort in and the result will come. You know, it was good to see Brad Hill and these lesser, pressure players still chasing and tackling late and doing the hard work. Especially when we were behind. It's easy to do it when you're on top and you just play like a rock star, but to do it when you're behind and to know that, you need to play tough to get the result, that was really big, and Brad Hill continued that, as well as the rest of the team. Brenton says, Ryder was amazing, but I can't feel Saints didn't capitalise on his dominance in the middle until the final quarter. That's true. We won clearances pretty comprehensively, but it was good to know that we persisted. We didn't deviate, because when you do the right thing and you're not really getting the result, it's easy to just change the process and go against what you know is going to work, and just hope that something else works and have no logic behind it at all. But our boys seem to know, okay, well, we had, dominated in that third term, but we kicked 1 goal 5, but we know that this method works. We just need to capitalise a bit more. Let's keep it up. And they kept it up. And eventually, that's what happened. We capitalised, put ourselves in a winning position, and we held on. Kerry says, Jake, were you getting as frustrated as we were watching it from home? It was so frustrating, but hell, I'll take the win and the 4 points. Go Saints. Yeah, I think every Saints fan, I was sitting in a good area of the ground and there were a lot of Saints supporters around me, and you could just feel that we kind of knew, God, that handball, if that just goes to the right player, or if we don't fumble there, if we just compose ourselves and just kick straighter there, we get the goal. And that was the frustrating thing. It wasn't, God, we're not chasing, we're not putting enough pressure, we're witches' hats. That wasn't like previous weeks. That wasn't the problem. It was just, we're trying too hard almost. We're not executing well enough, but the effort was there, and that's it's easier to fix the execution, and you could see that in the last quarter. If the effort is sustained and you just tweak a few things with your kicking, you slow the ball down, you play the percentages, you hit your targets a bit more, it's funny how quickly things turn around. You look like $1 million. You look like a very good team, and the last quarter was exactly that. We started hitting targets, we started kicking goals, and it was a flow-on effect. Everyone was kicking goals after that. Richard said hitting the post 3 or 4 times didn't help. Nope, did not help. That would have been, I think there was three times in a row almost, I'm pretty sure. Jason says missed a lot of easy shots. Should have been a 30-plus win in my opinion. Probably right, but I think Gold Coast started really well. They started better than us, and they had a lot of points. They kicked, I think it was 1 goal 4 or 1 goal 5 at quarter time to 3 points. So they could have been 3 or 4 more goals up at quarter time, and they weren't. So every team has their chances. They did, we did. They took them in the third term when we didn't, and that got them the 15-point buffer that they had. But then after that, it was all us, and it was good to know that we know that we can turn around a margin. We did it against West Coast. We did it against GWS to a lesser extent when Himmelberg missed that goal in the 4th term, and from that point on we won. Same goes, Lukosius has a chance to put them 20 up, and he misses that. We go down the other end a couple of times and we hit the front and we don't look back. So it's good to know that when we're down, we don't put our heads down. It's when we're getting flogged that's the problem. But in a close game, especially away from home, it's really important to just keep doing what you know is going to work, and eventually the win will come. Goodwin says, did anyone notice all the flooding the Gold Coast Did, especially in the last quarter. I didn't notice it so much in the last quarter. I noticed it in the first quarter. And I think that was just off the back of how well we slingshotted from half back to forward 50 last week. And they knew that they just needed to slow that down. So their tactic was clearly get players back, put them into the forward 50, surround Max King and Tim Membry and Rowan Marshall. And, and that's pretty much why we couldn't kick a goal in the first quarter. And why it was just bomb, and not really capitalising on any sort of tall structure and getting marks in the forward 50. But after that, clearly as the game goes on, you get tired, you can't run back as much, and that means that if you do run back, you don't have the endurance to run forward, and that took its toll on Gold Coast clearly. We looked the fitter in the last 10 minutes, and we were able to capitalise on that and run around them and take our chances. Tim says, just wanted to say that Snags went through the wars today. Good call. He was tough, wasn't he? Just kept fighting, kept getting in and under. He takes some great marks for a small. He cops a lot of heat, and he can still take a good contested mark. He should have kicked a couple more today, but glad he did get his goal in the end. Peter says it was a dirty win, but sometimes you have to win like that. 4 points in the back and move on to the Cats. Great call. Burns needs to keep playing, looks good. That's from John. I agree. I thought Burns was good. Didn't notice Bytel as much today, but I'm sure his numbers were pretty good in the end. He's always a good pressure player at the very least. If he's not getting the ball, he's tackling and chasing, and he's always good racking up the pressure acts. Shane says, Steele kicked goals when we needed them to keep us in the game. Agreed. Classic captain's game from Steele. Very similar to the Melbourne game, where he just kept kicking goals to keep us in it. Unlike the Melbourne game, we actually went on to win this one, but you just felt like no one else could hit a target in the forward line, and when he got the ball and snapped it, you know it's going in. You always know he's going to kick those snaps. Brenton says, Joyce played okay, not great, but he put his head over the ball in the final minutes when he needed to. Yep, it'll be interesting to know after last night with Hawkins and Cameron having massive games for Geelong, whether we persist with the backline we've got, or we go for a Highmore, or we actually bring in Frawley, who played in the VFL last week, and I don't think they're playing this week, so he gets a week off. So it's an interesting situation for Rats to bring in someone who hasn't played for 2 weeks in Frawley, or you persist with Joyce, or you bring in Highmore, who's more of an intercept sort of ruck. But that's a problem for next week. Sam says, yo, Jake, first time in the stream. Nice to see you win. Welcome, Sam. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it's good to always do a review after a win. It's pretty shitty when you're doing it after a loss, but it's good. All saying is getting around the club and talking about a win. Bame says, I could barely watch that footy, drop marks, players slipping everywhere, and so many missed shots, but we won. That's all that matters. We got the 4 points. Doesn't matter how we get the 4 points, especially when we're not quite hitting our straps yet and we're away from home, but these wins are very important. They're as important as any good, clean win like last week. Lance says, good teams find a way to win in matches like these. St Kilda lost this way for years. Our turn to take the cake. Agreed. If this was Geelong or if this was Richmond and the result was exactly the same, they were behind all day, they found a way late and they won, everyone would be like, oh God, those teams are so good. They'd be praising them all week in the papers. The media would be going off about them. Geez, that's gallant. Geez, that's what a top 4 team does. They didn't play their best and they were away from home against the odds and they won. But when it comes to St Kilda, the media is going to just say, well, that was a messy game. St Kilda got the job done in the end. But that's just how the media's always treated St Kilda. But if this was any other team like Geelong, Richmond or West Coast or these sort of teams, they'd be getting all the credit in the world. Shane says 3 votes Billings, 2 to Higgins, 1 to Steele. Yeah, that'd be right. Billings was massive. He had, I think, 13 or 14 marks, 25 disposals, kicked 2. He had a big day. Paul says, big game Friday night against the Cats. Bring our best. It'll give ourselves a fair chance on the big stage. Yep, and it's at Marvel. I think that probably suits us more. Geelong looked like they used the width of MCG really well last night against Richmond. They're not going to have that much time and space against us at Marvel because it's obviously a smaller ground. But it's going to be an interesting game knowing that Geelong had such a good win, but they've also had some weeks where they haven't looked that good, and we're just unpredictable. So if we play our best football next week, it's going to be enough to beat the Cats. But if we don't, it's going to be a tough day. But we've done what we needed to do leading into this game. We knew going into the Hawthorn game that we needed to beat Hawthorn and beat Gold Coast and go into the Geelong game 4-4 at the very least, despite form at all, just get the wins. We had a good win last week and we had a gallant win today. So it couldn't have really been better with no injuries as well. That's also the one thing we need to take from that is we didn't have any injuries. So that's an added bonus. David says, didn't see the game. How did Crouch go? I believe best game of 2021 for Billings. Yep, Billings was huge, but Crouch got going late. He had, I think, a game-high handballs. He was always the connector, very similar to last week. But the best part was that when he needed to late in the game, he took the shot from 50 and landed it beautifully, and the crowd went off, and that just sealed the game. So it was a good game from Crouch. It wasn't best on ground, but he'd be probably the top 5 or 6 players from a St Kilda point of view. Ryan says, was expecting to lose, so it was good to get the win. Don't know what we will get from one week to the next. That's the beauty of being a Saints supporter, but in the moment, focus on the win, mate. Just enjoy the replay, enjoy the win with everyone else, and then we'll focus on the Geelong game. But it's good to go into a primetime game off the back of 2 wins, playing Geelong, who are in form. So hopefully we get a good crowd, and, it would have been shit to play Geelong after a loss, going into next week to lose to Gold Coast and then play Geelong, who have been red hot after last night. So it's good. We get the confidence booster we need and we go back to Melbourne and focus on a tough game against a top team. Shane says, more Saints fans at the ground than Suns fans, which helped. Yeah, that was one thing I was kind of surprised about and proud of as well, is to see the away support from the St Kilda supporters. There were so many around the ground pre-game. I was counting, and I was just like, geez, I'm noticing a lot more Saints supporters today. And it was good to hear how loud we were and the chants late in the game to get the boys over the line and to see the players after the game wander around and to go to the cheer squad and to go to the away sections of the ground and to get around the supporters. That was awesome. But yeah, these are the best sort of wins when you travel away and you're around all the away supporters and they're just cheering. Yeah, especially when we're behind, we still cheered. That was the best part, is that we never gave up, and clearly it fed across to the ground, and the boys never gave up as well. Alice's Crouch was solid with 30 possessions. He was excellent in the last quarter. Probably right about Billings. Best game so far for the season. Marx's defence was great today. Too many balls wasted in midfield. Paddy huge in the last quarter. That's a really good point. I was mentioning this to my girlfriend watching the game, and I thought that our defence, apart from probably the first quarter where we got caught out the back a few too many times, from the second quarter onwards, I thought our defence was the best part of the ground. We were setting it up perfectly for everything else. Our mids were good. We were delivering it pretty nicely to our forwards, probably from the second half of the second quarter onwards, and our forwards just weren't taking their chances. That was the difference. Our forwards had so many good chances at kicking goals, and they didn't take them. It wasn't so much an issue in defence where we couldn't get the ball out or our mids not getting their hands on the ball. Both were doing their jobs. Defence was punching the ball out of bounds and just playing a disciplined game. Apart from Ben King kicking 3, they didn't look likely, the Suns. Rankin didn't do anything. Corbett didn't do anything. So we kept our focus in defence. Our mids delivering it pretty nicely to our forwards and getting the ball in there enough. And we were getting clean clearances at times. It was just the forwards weren't capitalising. But as the game went on, as we saw, we ended up capitalising. So, it'd be more a worry if our defence looked shit and our mids weren't on and weren't tackling, but both were doing their jobs and our forwards eventually clicked late in the game. Ian says, Dougal Howard quietly becoming an All-Australian defender. Massive call, but he's having a great season. Number 1 for spoils. You couldn't ask for much more from our fullback, especially under the heat he's been in all season. He hasn't really had time to catch a breath, but he had a great game today for sure. Goodman says, Jakey, thanks for supporting the Saints, even in Queensland. I've been following the Saints since 1965. I still wear my Saints polo every week they play. That's amazing. Good story there, Goodman. 1965, that's a lot longer than I've been supporting the Saints, but thank you for tuning in and thank you for sharing that. Enjoy the win. Supporting the Saints that long, you've been through a lot of tough years, but hopefully this year's a positive year for you. Tony says, should have heard the cheer at the final siren. It was awesome atmosphere. I heard the cheer. I was there. But, yeah, it was a great atmosphere for most of the game, especially when the momentum started swinging our way. You could just feel it in the stands that, yep, okay, we're getting on top here. Chris says 4 points is 4 points. Tom says, Brad Crouch is getting better each game. Angus Joyce has his moments but can still improve on his game. Agreed. I thought Joyce was serviceable again. Without being amazing, he kept his man pretty quiet and didn't do anything that cost the team. So that's the best thing. Paul says, you said 2 weeks ago, Jakey, 4-4 considering our poor start. We're sitting well, big effort next week and we beat the Cats. Look out. Colin says, let's get behind the boys and head down to the game this Friday. Yeah, let's get to the game. Let's outnumber the Cat supporters. They can get stuffed. They're probably top 2 most hated teams. Melbourne's right up there. Geelong's definitely up there. I went to school in Geelong, high school in Geelong, through the period of 2009 when they won the flag over us, and you could imagine how bad that was for me going to a school with all these Geelong nuffies, but hopefully we can... And they've been our bogey team as well, and that's one team we need to overcome. If we want to be a serious contender this year, we need to beat Geelong, because in years gone by, we just always get flogged by them, even when we're up and about. And last year was the same. They flogged us at the Gabba, but we were missing Paddy Ryder and I think Zach Jones that day, so a lot's changed since, and I think we're stronger for it. So hopefully we go into next week not worried about them too much, but taking the game on and run them off their legs. Sam says, how was Mac? Saw he dropped a few marks. Was he off or was he well defended? I think a bit of both. There were times where he was free and we didn't honour him, or he was free and then we took too long to get it to him and he was outnumbered. But there were times where, yep, he definitely needed to clunk the mark, and he's so good at just getting hands to it, he just doesn't hold on to it long enough. But hopefully that comes. It's been, quite frustrating watching him and knowing that if he does mark it, he's probably kicked 5 or 6 goals because he's getting hands onto it near the goal square, and that's easy for him. But then when he does take the mark, he's missing and kicking goals from angles, and you're not really sure what max king you're going to get when he takes shots, but he's a young player and he's only going to improve. Raphael says, what an awesome game to be at. Crowd went off in the last quarter. Ben says, Steele just steps up another level when we were in the shit. Agreed. He knew that we were in trouble and he stepped up. That's what a captain does. Hunter Clark is pure silk. That's from Ryan. Steven says, Wilkie, 25 quality disposals, huge for a defender. Yep, and he's so good at those intercept marks. He's one of the best players, I think, from, just resting his arm and then just taking it, putting the dukes out and taking the mark. And timing that mark perfectly. He's one of the best in the league at doing that without pushing the player in the back. He just kind of rests the arm there. When was our last win against Geelong? 2016. That's from Al. Yeah, I think it would have been 2016 when Jack Stephen put that toe poke through and we got the win there. So that's long ago. I think that's when we were near the bottom of the ladder. Geelong were near the top, and that was a big unexpected win. So hopefully we can turn the tables and, like I said, beat a bogey team next week. And yeah, we can't forget Seb Ross didn't play and he had twins on his birthday. So congratulations to Seb Ross having twins, and that's why Mason Wood played. But yeah, Seb Ross would be a straight in next week. You don't think that Mason Wood gets a game. He only finished with 5 disposals. Tried hard, but probably doesn't get a gig next week, especially against Geelong at Marvel on Friday night. I might leave it there, guys. Thanks again for all the comments. Keep them coming. I'll respond later tonight. Going to go out and celebrate, have a nice dinner on the Gold Coast and enjoy the win that way. But hopefully you enjoy the win at home or wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. This will be up on YouTube as well. As I always mention, up on YouTube. If you tuned in late, you've missed the previous 20 minutes of the review. Go on there, subscribe to Saints TV on YouTube. The podcast will be out Tuesday night. We'll preview the big Geelong game and obviously review the win against the Gold Coast Suns. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comments, the likes, the stars, everything. Again, really appreciate it. And to all the Saints fans that travelled like me from Melbourne or from any other parts of Australia to support the boys, good on yous. It was a great environment and atmosphere of the game today, and I'm sure the boys felt it, and that willed them over the line late in the game. But until next week, when I preview the Geelong game, thanks again for watching, guys, and go you mighty Sainers. See you guys.